Hi, I'm Mitch,
And I'm Todd.
and we are the Grizzled Geeks. And this week we're going to do a segment called Game Time with the Geeks.
Game time!
So let's get right into it. First up, a little PSA about the Sasuke update, or update 4.5 for the PS4.
Yep, this came out on March 9th, and I couldn't wait to get it because I've talked in the past about I wanted to upgrade my hard drive. I'm running out of space, and I was so close to this update coming out, I decided to wait. I have the enclosure. I've got a 2 terabyte drive, and I couldn't get the thing to recognize the drive. I would plug it in, I'd go in, it wouldn't see it. And so I was getting very frustrated. I kept trying to reformat it in different formats. I was in exFAT. I tried FAT32. And then finally, I got the bright idea to take a page from Microsoft 101 and just reboot the PlayStation with it plugged in. And it came right in and recognized it the first try. And it said, hey, would you like to format this as an extended hard drive? And I said, why, yes. Yes, I would. And it said, you're going to, of course, lose any data on here. And I was like, I don't care. Done. There it was. I had my storage space. I thought that was kind of neat. It immediately is like, do you want to move applications here? Do you want to, there was an option for that. But the main thing is now, instead of having to take out my good 500 gig drive with the operating system and reinstall everything, I just plug the 2 terabyte drive in and leave it, I guess, sitting next to it or on top of it running. And I've got an extra 2 terabytes of storage space.
Yeah, put it in a cabinet underneath the TV, or sitting behind the TV or whatever, out of the way, out of view. You can pretty put it wherever you want to with cabling and all that.
Yeah.
So
and
there's no. Sorry, go ahead.
I say, hope none of my son's friends when they come to use the PlayStation go, hey, what's this?
Yeah. So that was kind of what I was going to ask. Is there I can't remember if there's a USB port on the back of the PS4. I don't think there is.
Not on mine. I looked.
So this means that it's going to be one of the two PlayStation or USB ports on the front of the thing tied up by this drive. I guess that's not terrible.
No, it makes no difference to me at all. I've got an extension cord. My wife and I plugged this extension cord in for something we thought would be temporary years ago, back where the love seat is, and it's been there now for 2 years because we're constantly charging our gadgets. So one of the things I'm doing when I'm playing across the room from the TV is I've got a plug there. I plugged my USB into the controller, and I've got perma power without having to be within 6 feet of the box. So for us, it makes no difference at all. I still have one open one if need be, although I have two enclosures. I could have two. Yeah, I could have all the space in the world.
I don't know that you really need that.
No.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder, and I guess we'll have to play around with it a little bit, how it'll handle the, if you take the drive out while the system's running, how it recovers from that, or if it comes on and the drive isn't responding, if the, hopefully the whole OS just isn't hosed, that needed both partitions there, but
yeah, I'm hoping
maybe you want to try that out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I would think whatever game you're playing might be in trouble if you were playing off of that or something, if you were trying to save to it. But I have a feeling that all the OS stuff just stays on the primary drive, and it only puts data on this extended drive. And so if it can't access the data, whatever program you're playing might crash, but I can't imagine it would crash the whole OS. But I don't know. I haven't done that test case yet. So do it and let me know how it works out.
Yeah. We'll be getting something. I think we were talking about it earlier. I don't really want to use the portable drive that I have right now as an enclosure. I'd rather get something that's more permanent to put with the PlayStation if I'm going to do this. But yeah,
right now it's a great time. The drives are a lot cheaper. $8.99 for an enclosure at Micro Center, and then $79 for. Am I repeating myself? $79 for a 2 terabyte hard drive on Amazon.
I think it was just pre-show talk that we were talking about that.
All right, I couldn't remember if it was pre-show or not because I'm old and grizzled and get off my lawn.
All right, well let's move on. So a quick thing, a PSA. Blizzard apparently doesn't like you farming XP in custom games. They introduced the new games browser this week in Overwatch, and part of that you could browse for game servers, and some people figured out a hack to get in there and not do any gameplay itself at all, but to just rack up constant XP. The only thing you had to do in a lot of these servers was just occasionally switch heroes. You weren't fighting, you weren't working on objectives, you weren't doing any of that. You were just standing around, and and the reason you want to do this in Overwatch for people that aren't as familiar, every time you level up in Overwatch, they give you a loot crate. So it's going to give you skins or voice emotes or stickers or something like that that you can use in there. And normally you just play the game and you level up naturally and you get those, or you can pay money to get these things if you want to get them, more all at once. But most people just play the game. And some people thought they would get away with going with these custom games, and well, lo and behold, Blizzard came around and dropped the ban hammer on these guys. So,
but I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second, and I'm going to say on their behalf, if you didn't want us to do it, why'd you make it possible, bitch?
Yeah. So, they didn't intend to do that. They probably didn't even realize you could do that until some enterprising person out there was like, hey, I wonder what happens if you do this. Hey, I wonder what happens if you do this. So I write code for a living, and testers all the time are going, hey, I wonder what happens when you do this. And that's a sign of a hallmark of a really good tester. So whoever this guy is that figured this out, hire him for some software development company, or Blizzard hire him, and just stick him in a room somewhere, and they're like, hey, we got this new feature. Why don't you play around with it? And he's like, hey, I wonder what happens when you do this. And they're like, oh, shit, yeah, we need to work around that.
So as a developer, and you know how developers think, especially gaming developers, you don't think for a second that some gamer might have left this little hole there planning on exploiting it?
That's not the devs. I'm sure at this point the devs have played so much, that the only benefit you get for leveling up this way is loot crate or loot boxes. So I'm sure the devs have a code to just go ahead and add loot boxes to their account anytime that they want, and they have all of the skins and all that stuff already. So there's no need for them to do this.
You couldn't maybe sell this little secret to your friends on the side, but hey, give me $10, I'll show you where I left a little backdoor hole in there for you.
And if so, that friend got screwed.
Yeah, that friend has had the hammer dropped on them. All right, so no more cheating, Overwatch users. You play by the rules like everybody else.
Yeah, just play the game. I mean, if you're enjoying yourself, you'll get the skins anyway. RNG is kind of a bitch, but you'll get there.
All right. I have no idea what the Nemesis system is.
All right, so we've talked about this before. So, Middle Earth: Shadow of War. This is the expansion or the sequel to the previous game.
The Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings game. It's the Nemesis system is a system where you will you'll go out and you'll fight an orc, and maybe he's just this low-level peon, but he's a named low-level peon. You fight him. Your mission is to go kill him before he does something. And maybe you try and kill him. Maybe he runs away before you can get to him because you get busy doing something else. Maybe he kills you, or he gets burned, or something happens. He doesn't die. That event has an impact on him. So if he defeats you, he rises in the ranks of the orcs, and so he becomes more powerful. And so he might get a promotion. He might have more followers. He might gain a resistance to whatever tactic that you tried to kill him with the first time around, and be harder to kill in that way. And so the game enemies evolved as you encountered them. And some of the characters in the first game, you would encounter a number of times. And sometimes you'd be in the middle of a fight and another one of the named enemies would come in, and you either had to cut and run, or, you got busy killing somebody else, or the other guy was just, fast enough to get away, to where you're fighting these guys, 4 or 5, 6 times. And they change and evolve every time you fight them. So it was a really cool system in the first game.
that is cool. It reminds me a little bit of City of Heroes. In City of Heroes, when you got into the Hollows, everybody would do this one mission called the Fire Frost mission, I think it was. And at the end of it, you were in this warehouse. You'd fight your way up to fight this guy named Fire Frost, who had these ice powers. I think he had fire powers too. And he was tough. He was sort of a boss at that level, and you got a lot of experience on it. But then later, they had a higher level mission where you had to fight him again, and he was more powerful this time. And that's kind of what that reminds me of. It's great. I wish they would do that, automatically with lots of the characters in games like that, because I remember just you're going along, you're leveling, and you're grinding, and you're just going and killing minion after minion after minion. It would have been kind of cool if they got tougher to kill as you were going along, the same minions.
Yeah, and it's a system that, since a lot of the enemies were kind of randomly generated, it brought a lot of life into it. You actually cared about it, and it wasn't just random orc number 12 that you were going up against. So yeah, the article that we saw about this one, they were talking about your friends, friendly characters are also evolving with the Nemesis system, which is a new addition. So in the old game, you got powers as you were leveling up, and you could dominate these orcs instead of just killing them. You would dominate them and sort of infiltrate the orc ranks with these dominated orcs, and they would work for you. But they would kind of be like mindless drones almost at that point.
Hey, that was my nickname in college.
It was not my wrestling name in high school. But anyway, so they kind of become these mindless drones, and what they're talking about in this one is that as you use them, as you try and you make these mind controlled orcs fight other orcs for you, and they're rising in the ranks, they'll also evolve in the same way through the Nemesis system. So it's adding a little more complexity onto the system they had for the last time. Still sounds really cool. I really, really enjoyed the last game.
Cool. All right. So that is the Nemesis system in Middle Earth's Shadow of War. Now on to a whole different war, the Switch.
Well, I don't know. Why don't we switch that one, no pun intended, to right down before No Man's Sky. I want to rant about this one a little bit, so let's quickly cover up the the other two articles. I'm going to rant a little bit about the Switch, and then you can talk to us about No Man's Sky.
Okay.
So, all right. So, PSA, Telltale Games, they did, the Walking Dead action adventure type games. They had one for Tales from the Borderlands. They had a werewolf game. I can't remember the name of that one, but they're going to be doing a Guardians of the Galaxy game this spring. So just a quick PSA on that one. If you're into the Telltale game kind of storytelling, then it should be right up your alley. And we really like the Guardians here on the podcast. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, it should be fun. And then the other one was Elder Scrolls has apparently had a digital card game in the works in beta for a long time, and they just launched that as an official thing that you can go out and get. I'll throw out the links in the show notes once we post this, but yeah, it kind of looks like Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering, online type thing. So I'm not sure what's going to set that apart, other than Elder Scrolls. They've got a lot of stuff, but it always felt like single player was more their thing rather than massive multiplayer online. Their MMO thing didn't really take off the way I think they were hoping it would.
I was looking forward to it. I got it. I tried it, and it just didn't hold my attention. I was a little disappointed. I don't know why. I don't remember what it was, other than there was nothing new to see here. Maybe.
Yeah, it really takes a lot to keep me in an MMO these days, and yeah, that one it was really hard to get in there and play it. It was not holding my interest at all. It didn't look as nice. There were a million other me's running around, so I wasn't as impactful into the story. And so, yeah, I don't know that they really got to have a good grasp on the things that it really takes to make a good MMO.
All right. Do you want to move on to
All right,
the Switch?
yeah. Unless you want to talk about No Man's Sky first.
Yeah, we
Either
can do
way.
that. I'm fine with that. That was the other big announcement or a big update that came out this week. In addition to the PlayStation update, was an update to No Man's Sky, which was sorely needed. I think this could go a long way towards making some of the people who were just irate at how disappointing it was when it came out a little happier. They put a lot into this update, so I spent some time playing it yesterday morning. I spent about 3 or 4 hours. In the beginning, I was a little frustrated. It had been a while since I played, and I forgot that my home world is adjacent to a place where the Sentinels are extreme, and I died pretty quickly. The other thing I've noticed, I don't know if this is my new ship or if the game was like this before, but now the landings are kind of screwed up where every time my ship lands, he lands on the edge of a cliff, and when I get out of the ship, I fall and take damage. And then I got to try to get back up to the ship. And it keeps happening to me. I don't know if it's part of the update or not. But the one thing that was easy to do is I went back to my home base. I was able to build a room where I put in the console for the car, for the vehicle. And then the first station I went to had a guy for hire who was willing to go, and after insulting me, go work at my base. And he said, well, you just got to build this little pad. I went out and built the pad, and then magically, boom, the vehicle appeared. I was able to get on it and go riding around. At first, the controls were a little weird. There's like a delay in turning. You turn your focus, and then the car follows. So it's a little weird. It took a little getting used to, but that's the way it worked, and it was kind of fun to play. And then you go back to him, and he'll give you a formula for how to create a scanner for your buggy. And then you go back and he'll give you a formula for this is what you need in order to create a gun for your little buggy. So that was kind of cool. The other thing I noticed, they've put a lot more other materials out. It's a little easier to find plutonium, which could sometimes be a pain in the ass when you ran out of fuel and you couldn't lift off till you found it. It seems to be a little more plentiful now. The other things are some of the exotic materials. They've added a whole bunch of new ones, and you can do a lot more with them. They've added this thing with nanites, where a lot of the things you get now that you used to get neutrino modules or other things, you now get nanites. You can trade these nanites for blueprints, for building stuff, for building some elaborate stuff. And a lot of this stuff that you're building now is because base building has a whole bunch of new materials and new modules and things. So you can really expand the look of your base. I don't remember if renaming of the base and renaming of your ship and other things is part of the new update. I never did it before, and I never saw it before, so I thought it was part of it. So I was able to rename my base to Mikasa Sukasa, and then rename my ship to the Lightning Bug.
So,
So
so I've
that
kind of
was
got a
kind of neat.
question. How's the buggy work? Can you land on a new planet and then poof the buggy out of your ship, or is it just something that's going to be near your base?
I think it's just something that's near your base. I haven't played around with it enough yet to really get an idea of I went some other place and they didn't have the buggy when I landed, so I didn't know that if you hit the up thing, there's a command to call the buggy, but it was grayed out at one point. So I think that's because maybe you have to have a base on that world too. So I wanted to create multiple bases because I thought that was part of the update also, but I'm not sure that it is. I did the whole base thing and it transferred my home planet to that home planet, and I'm like, whoa, okay, go back and reload my last game because I don't want to. I've been spending a lot of time building this base, and I don't want to lose that. So that part I'm not real sure of. Also, you're supposed to be able to have more than one ship. I don't know how that works. I found a ship, and I couldn't find a way where I could keep that ship and the ship that I had. So I've still got a lot of finding out how to do things. It's one of the downsides of No Man's Sky that still is there is um, things are very difficult to learn. It's sort of a big learning curve. There's not a lot of help from the game.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
and that's kind of the way I was comparing it to Minecraft early on, right? When you start Minecraft, they give you the barest hints about how to do things, and then after that, you just figure out the recipes on your own, or go look them up in the wiki, which is pretty much what most people do. And eventually you learn them, but there's no hand holding at all in there.
Yeah, the other thing that was a little disconcerting, it seemed to drop a lot of my stuff down. As you're going along in the game, every time you find a new gun or you find a new ship, it's your level or a little bit higher. So I found a new gun, went into one of the anomalies in space, went in, and the gun that they had only had like 7 slots. I'm like, whoa, I haven't seen a gun this primitive in a long time. So then, likewise, did the same thing with a ship. I found a ship. I was expecting it to have at least 25 slots. It only had 20 slots.
Hmm.
So that was a little odd. But I guess I'm back in for a little while. There's a lot more to do now. Some of the beefs that I had originally are still there, and but there's a lot more new things to learn and to explore and to create. So I'm hoping this isn't the last update that they do. I hope that they continue to add to it like this. But this is a big update with a lot of stuff. So I'll keep
Well,
you
I mean,
posted.
the little bit that they've been talking online, it seems like they're trying to get better at talking to the community and being committed to keeping around and developing the features that they had originally promised, but they didn't deliver on when the game first launched. So yeah, if you're interested in it, and it seems like it's going to be around for a while. So all right,
Yeah.
well let's round out the segment with a little bit of rant about the Switch. So first off, I've been watching a ton of um, gameplay for Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild looks amazing. I've read some articles about it. I've watched some gameplay here on Twitch, and I really, really, really want to play Breath of the Wild. It looks like kind of what Zelda games should have been for a long time. It's open world and just a bunch of cool new mechanics. They kind of broke the mold with the original Zelda games.
Yeah.
So, but uh, then there's the bad thing, right? The Switch, from what I'm seeing, has got a lot of issues. People are having problems with the hardware. The dock that it comes with scratching the front of the Switch itself. So crappy materials there. The Joy-Con controllers, they've got little things you can add on to them to make them handheld, so you can push the buttons on both sides of them on the parts that slide onto the dock. And apparently, you can screw it up and put it on the wrong way onto the wrong one, and then have a really difficult time, if not just impossible, to pull those things off of the Joy-Con controllers and put them back on your Switch and use it the way you're supposed to, be able to charge them, all those kinds of things. It just seems like the hardware itself was half baked, and they're using shitty materials for it. There goes Ryan. Uh,
I prefer my materials fully baked.
so yeah, there's no way that I'm paying the kind of money they're asking for a crappy piece of hardware, especially when there aren't any games aside from Zelda. I love Zelda and I love the Zelda games, but I'm not
Yeah,
going to
the
spend that kind of
post
money on that just for that.
the post had a huge article about how much they love the Zelda game, but that's the thing. I would have a really hard time pulling the trigger on $300 for to play one or two games. And the other thing is, given the amount of trouble that they're having right now, if you just wait a while, in 6 months for $300, you might be able to buy the whole company.
Oh, yeah. So the other things I wanted to bring up, not only are they having scratching issues, they're having issues with the hardware glitching out. Just freezing and making these horrible sounds. Having lines artifacting. It looks like graphics card issues, and they're not sure how many of these things are in there. But then, even if you get past, maybe you've got some defects in a few units, they're just, going kind of viral on the internet. Design consideration. Did you know if you have two switches for some reason or whatever, or you have a switch and then you lose it or it gets broken or whatever, and you want to transfer the save file for Zelda Breath of the Wild, the only game that really out there that you can play, over to a new one, you can't do that. You have to start all the way over. It's not tied to your account. It's tied to the physical hardware. So it gets stolen, it gets lost, it gets broken, it glitches out because the hardware is crappy, and you have to send it back to Nintendo, and they have to send you a new one. Guess what? You're starting over.
So you're saying with the Switch, you literally can't switch.
You cannot switch.
Why is it called the Switch? Why isn't it called the can't switch? Oh, wow. The more I hear about this, the more it sounds like the Hindenburg. The more it sounds like it's going down in flames with someone standing there saying, "Oh, the humanity."
So yeah, I've been a Nintendo fanboy for a while. They kind of lost me around the time the Wii came out. I bought into the Wii at first, got the Zelda that came out on there, and then it was just a dry spell after that. Didn't bother picking up the Wii U. There wasn't anything really there that's worth the excuse to buy the hardware. And I'd really love Zelda, but I can't see myself spending that kind of money for something like this.
It's a little funny that this company has this built-in fan base, and they just can't seem to figure out a way to build something decent with it.
Well, they punish their fans. They punish their fans. People want to do Let's Plays on YouTube or Twitch, and they're hitting them with the copyright takedown notices, or being able to monetize their video. All these people want to do is play the games and enjoy it, share that with the community, build out the community around there through this kind of thing. And Nintendo just doesn't really get it.
Is Nintendo Japanese for no fun for you?
Maybe it is.
It's the no fun club.
All right, I feel like we've kind of beat this to death. I really hope they turn around. Although, hardware issues they can get around, especially if it's just a few in the beginning. Maybe they can they change the save game system, and as more games come out, and if they're actually following up with their promises to support third-party tool sets and developers, maybe the Switch will be a better piece of hardware. But right now, I can't justify spending any money on it.
Somewhere in Japan, in some office room, there's some guy getting out. Oh, that's him in 3 or 4 months. That's terrible. They don't do that anymore, right? It's China. All right.
That was Japan. I don't know that they do that anymore, though.
All right.
So let's wrap it up. So I'm Mitch.
And I'm Todd.
And we are the Crystal Geeks.